Solitude with the Eternal is the much anticipated third album from Adversarial. This is a band that formed between Toronto, Ontario based musicians back in the day, and they've been impressive in their combination of kind of brutal death metal and blackened death metal since about like the late 2000s. And no doubt you've heard of some of their other groups. There's been some involvement with Nuclear Hammer, and Azothist is probably the most recent group related to the band to have been out in the last 10 years. They haven't been around for a while, but this is a band that was very well respected when they first showed up. I think All Idols Fall Before the Hammer is best known for its kind of drum sound. It was a mixture of kind of brutal death metal drum sounds, bestial black death metal, and all of it showed up with riffs. I mean, the band's first demo, Thralls, was insane at the time, and their record was even better. But some of that guitar work was kind of buried by the drum sound, and I liked it. For me, that's just excellent in terms of the way that drums should sound on a death metal record. It's a unique thing, and it was very different from what a lot of other bands were doing at the time. You could lump in their sound as something immolation influenced, like Dead Congregation or Drawn and Quartered of the era. Maybe they've got compatriots in a band like Mitochondrion with what they were doing with Atmosphere at the time, but their sound was unique, and that was an era where it was a standout thing. It was a brutal thing, and it was just different from a lot of what was going on. Now, their second record came pretty quick, and I think that it was not received as readily because the times had sort of changed a little bit and people weren't looking for something in that style at the time. I think a lot of technical stuff was more popular. A lot of death metal was becoming dumbed down, and they were basically refining their sound. It was perfection. I love that record, and I think that a lot of people overlooked it because it didn't stand out at the time. But if you're a fan of like Axis of Advance or Diocletian, or even just earlier Ulcerate, there's a lot that you're going to love about that record if you revisit it now, and that's kind of my biggest recommendation is to listen to that before you jump into this one, because I feel like they've amplified everything about that second record and refined it even more while still keeping what was exciting about their early stuff for this record. So let's cut to a song here, and we'll just get flattened by at least 15 seconds of it. So it is kind of reductive to just say that this is maybe something that mixes brutal death metal with blackened death metal. There is a lot more context available there, and essentially, if you're a fan of what like Angel Corpse did at the turn of their sort of advent, but also what brutal death metal was doing in the early 2000s, you kind of saw a meeting of minds in a band like this that you just didn't really see that done well anywhere else, I would say, especially not during the 2000s. Nowadays, we see a lot more different approaches to bestial black death metal, but we don't necessarily see anything else that is exactly like Adversarial. So it makes their return and this sound even more exciting because they've refined it even further, and their guitar work is even better. They haven't been asleep for the past 10 years. It feels like they've been dormant and mulling over what to do next and what would be the next level of their sound. And I feel like this record gets it absolutely right. It's pretty short. It's just over a half an hour, and it just cuts through song after song in exactly their own style. Every song has its purpose, its action, its level of detail and care put into each of their rhythms, but all of it feels abrupt, violent, and aggressive as death metal should. It is an absolute hail, it is a barrage and an attack throughout. And they do have some breaks in the action, but all of it is more to make a big moment that stands out song after song. And they get to that point where it doesn't seem like the engine is running out. They cut out before it starts to drone on or get old, and I think they've found a really great balance of working a little bit more dissonance in there, like the last record did, but without overdoing it and making it the point of every phrase on the record. This is a record that's all about the riffs, it's all about the brutality of its action, and I feel like they just kind of get it right this time around. Obviously, I was a big fan of the last two records and what was unique about them, but also the content of the rhythms, and they've only just perfected that in terms of tightening up every moment to feel just full of action and just flattening throughout. It's the type of record that I can leave on for days at a time and still get a kick out of how it hits every time, and never feel desensitized to the impact of it, because it stands out so tall among what else is going on in death metal right now. It feels like this is something far superior to a lot of what else is going on in terms of injecting some vigor, some attack, and some violence into death metal, and in a way that has that blackened flair, that a little extra bit of vehemence that makes death metal exciting beyond its original evolution. So well above average, a very high recommendation here. This is one of the better records of the year so far for me, one of the more exciting releases overall, and just one of my highest recommendations of the month, if not the highest. So check this out for yourself, see if it's your gig. It releases tomorrow on May 31st, and go ahead and read my review for more of my thoughts.